Thanks to Ridley for recommending I review this in my comments. Undertale is a game that needs no introduction, so I'm not going to give it one. I'm going to avoid spoilers in this video, even if that may be a little ridiculous to try to do at this point, considering most spoilers here are part of the internet's cultural osmosis already. Undertale follows a child named Frisk, that you can name them whatever you want at the start of the game, falling into a mountain and into the underground, which is where monsters live. Monsters being another race of beings similar to humans that were exiled long ago from the surface world due to a war. I'm not going to spoil any more of the plot because it's really not necessary for the review. The story in the game is generally very good. The characters are all very well written and feel believable, while also being consistently very funny. The game in general is very funny, which makes the parts where it gets predominantly serious hit significantly harder. Definitely one of my favorite narrative tropes. There isn't a super strong narrative through-line, with most of the game being comprised of short, usually comedic vignettes, but I think it works in the game's favor to not have a very complex narrative. At least not one that's readily apparent, as there's a fair bit of interesting lore you can find. My only real complaint with the writing in the game is that sometimes the meta elements, and the game is very, very meta, especially in some of the darker routes, which I'll mention in the gameplay section, feel a little pretentious and not enormously well written, which is something the developer Toby Fox has improved on greatly in his newest game, Deltarune. It's not a big complaint for me, though. The meta elements still mostly work well. Just something to point out. Overall, though, Undertale's story and writing is consistently very good. Undertale is an RPG, albeit a fairly non-traditional one, and the gameplay stays somewhat consistent with that. Most of the game is comprised of either exploring the world, interacting with NPCs, or solving, usually very easy, puzzles. Or fighting battles. The puzzles are usually fun, but even as someone who is god-awful at puzzles, I didn't have trouble with any of them, so don't go into the game expecting anything too complex or tough to figure out. The battles are where the gameplay gets interesting. You have 4 options in battle, which are the 2 standard options of attacking and using items, as well as the 2 stranger options of acting and using mercy. Attacking is fairly standard for RPGs, though you do have to play a very short timing-based minigame that determines how much damage you deal first. Items are the same as in every other RPG, not going to elaborate on those. The other 2 options tie into the main gimmick of Undertale, in that you can complete the entire game without ever killing any enemies by using the Act and Mercy skills. Basically, every enemy and boss has a specific set of acts that you need to perform to unlock the option to spare them. These can get pretty in-depth and are very fun to figure out, being a lot more fun in my opinion than just killing every enemy. This also ties into the other main gimmick of Undertale, in that based on your choices of who you spare or kill, there are many, many different endings you can unlock. I won't spoil anything else about this system, but it is a lot of fun to mess around with. The one other thing about the combat that's unique is what happens in the enemy's turn, which is comprised of you playing a relatively short bullet hell type minigame, where you control a heart and avoid bullets from around the screen. It is a very fun minigame and is used to great effect later in the game when there are a ton of different bullet and heart types introduced. Battles are very fun in this game. Overworld exploration is also enjoyable, although I do wish there was a run button. Probably should have mentioned that earlier. You don't move ungodly slow, but can definitely get annoying if you decide to backtrack. Overall, though, gameplay in Undertale is great and very fun. The art in the game, especially the overworld sprites, is definitely pretty crude, but I don't think it takes away from the game at all. A lot of the battle sprites also look quite good and are animated very nicely. The music in this game is also extremely good, and definitely one of my favorite game soundtracks. I don't think there are any songs that play for a sensible length of time in the game that I don't like. They're just super well done. I'd highly recommend people to listen to the OST even if they don't want to play the game. It works quite well as a standalone chiptune or electronic album in my opinion. Definitely give it a listen. Overall, Undertale is a great game with very few flaws, and I would highly recommend it. Although realistically, if you're watching this, you've probably already played it. But well, whatever. Hope you enjoyed the review.